There you go. Greetings, oitlins, and greetings, lambs. I'm Truman Kesey, the second. This is about the MS13 Takeover as being used as a long game excuse while being planned as part of a long game excuse for police state as predicted in Groundhog Day, the movie. Here we go. My friend's brother-in-law was elected to be mayor of Riverdale, Maryland, in Prince George's County, not far from Montgomery County and the border of Washington, D.C. Kinds of men. Having the semblance of mafia, straightway came into his office and intimidated him into quitting from his mayoralty. When I heard this tale, I immediately felt that one of the intimidators was Joe Corbin. This isn't in my notes, but Joe had a more of a Sicilian appearance than as Sicilian an appearance as you could get. Joe was a local spy / agent in Montgomery College and surrounding areas. Joe was capable of intimidating. He was born in Aries when Jupiter was in Scorpio. Joe was a builder of his body, and he bore a brooding and intense demeanor, spelled with O-U-R. Also, he was a liar. Once I encountered him on a train after a separation of more than 30 years, and he told to me that he was going to move himself to the lowlands so that he could legally abuse heroin. He lied to induce me to reveal whether I was involved with heroin. He must have taken additional work as an agent of DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, so-called, in addition to his previous duties, which may have included that. This encounter with him happened during the D.C. Beltway shootin' scarin'. The allegedly arrested, quote, shooters, end quote, were seen running freely years afterward under new identities. Now, don't take me the wrong way. Joe was a heck of a guy. Of all of the hecks of guys, he was one of them. He wore fancy shirts of the kind known to have been worn by Sicilian men in America. I don't think that Joe was all that intelligent, but he was cagey, sly, and suspicious. And what is more, he knew on what side his bread was buttered, for he operated very close to the Roman invasionary headquarters occupied by Catholic University and the seductively named, quote, Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, end quote. After the driving outward of Mayor Professor Moreland Perkins, 1988, starting to sound like Foster Brooks, except he had teeth. One of the Vatican's armies called, quote, MS13, end quote, took over the region. You see the timing here? They intimidated Merlin Perkins, then MS13 took over the region. Clear through Langley Park as far as New Hampshire Avenue. A resident at New Hampshire and Uby told to me about 2010, this is like 32 years later, that the whole region was unsafe at night owing to MS-13. We must regard, quote, mafia, end quote, MS-13 and Joe Corbin as unregistered agents of a hostile foreign government, the Vatican, working to fulfill the fourth vow and the Council of Trent. However, I've got that underlined with an exclamation point. I hope you can hear the underline and the exclamation point in my voice. Zebites of the Grand Orient took over the Vatican by coercion in the conclaves of 1958 and 1963, besides murdering a couple of the popes that weren't on their team. Ex-Freemason Jim Shaw, in his book, gave the dates of the inductions of most of the cardinals. Cardinal means hinges of the door. The Pope being the door to heaven, and the cardinals are the hinges of the door to heaven, according to them. Jim Shaw gave the dates of the inductions of the cardinals into Freemasonry during the 1950s, which apparently led to the takeover of the papacy in 58 and 63. Reportedly, the season of the papacy was under supervision of the Rothschilds. Rothschilds have bowed downward to the Collins Queen of Witches and offered to her their chillins to be her servants. Pastor Peters himself has declared, quote, Satan's kingdom is a queendom, end quote. I have seen a vision of a huge room or auditorium underground wherein a crowd of beings. I didn't see the beings very clearly. I was kind of looking toward the stage, and they were in the lower and side periphery of my vision, in the vision. It wasn't even, it wasn't an eye vision. It was a crowd of beings was worshiping the said queen. Presumably, Joe and his mafia buddies were either ignorant or in denial of the Khazarian leadership of the papacy at that time. Lately, have we seen much news about federal activity against the third world intruders in USA, who are collectively an army of the Vatican, which was brought into our lands for the purpose of justifying the making of a police state. Another angle is that the allies of the Kennedys may be using the feds to counterattack the forces of the Zebite-led Vatican that had tried to kill their forebears. There are too many apparent contradictions and discrepancies for me to know what is staged, on the screen, the so-called news and report, all of it, and what is actual competition. They could be pretending to be competing, or they could even be, from their point, they could be competing, But at the top levels, they're just in control of both competitors. And throw them in the ring and say, oh, let's see what they do. Much, or even influence it through manipulating other forces that make one side win over the other. Much Chinese crime has been busted lately in the USA, which suggests action taken by the Orsini-led Zebites in U.S. government. Now, when you say government, make sure you pronounce the letter, both of the letters N, government, not government. Otherwise, you don't belong among decent folks. Against, where was I? Lately in the USA, which suggests action taken by Orsini-led Zebites. Oh, much Chinese crime has been busted lately in the USA, which suggests action taken by Orsini-led Zebites in the U.S. government against Breakspear-led Chinese criminal enterprises. The moving picture Groundhog Day gave predictive programming, which is a thing, look it up if you haven't studied it already, showing that from day to day, the ratio of police, Groundhog Day is the day to day to day to day to day to day. So from one scene to the next scene, next day scene, next day scene, the ratio of police to military folks on the town square kept diminishing. Each day had more military and fewer police than the previous day. Thus, the federal actions against the gangs of illegals and of Chinese was planned way back in the early 1990s, which means that the same controllers were behind, quote, Biden, end quote, open borders, and, quote, Trump's, end quote, military response. The violent crimes of the gangs upheld by the, quote, sanctuary support economy, end quote, and infiltrators in the courts made the folks of the land to be ready to welcome the presence of the war host. So who are those beings who controlled both the, quote, Biden, end quote, regime and the, quote, Trump, end quote, regime? Who are they? Whoever they are, they have used Whitney Webb and others to show the involvement of the Zebite Khazarian Mafia and their allies without showing the hidden levels above them, consisting of the devil himself, the Collins Queen of Witches, Stefano Massimo, the Visconti's Mafia controlling the Entertainment Corporation, the alleged war between the Zebite Federal Reserve Orsini family versus the Breakspear family. In the Holy Writ, men of iron are the children of Satan, foretold in chapter 3 of Genesis. The Holy Writ declares that the one who came in 1972 after the 7-year rule of Cardinal Spellman would rule with a, quote, rod of iron, end quote. The rod of iron is the government by the men of iron, Satan's children. Quote, he will rule with a government composed of the devil's children, end quote. That's what the Holy Book tells. That particular foretelling is being brought to an end as Pluto passes through Aquarius. Last time when Pluto was in Aquarius, American freedom from England, and the time before that, England's freedom from Rome. The next phase, as Western civilization is inevitably disintegrated, is a religious development in the Slavic civilization. Putin, a Freemason and part of the Slavic civilization, which Russia is, and the Orthodox Church, has declared Russia to be a sanctuary for every kind of Christian, not just Orthodox, every kind. This is a predicted phase of an already extant civilization, the Slavic civilization. The new civilization to be born out of Western civilization is to be made or recruited by me, as confirmed by 4 marks that I possess, foretold in the proven old-time prophecies of the Hopi. You are welcome to help start this new civilization. In order to do so, you may scroll to the bottom of my short bio, which may be linked below this screen depending on which sharing service you're using, and to get the email address whereby to contact me about the Brotherhood for Safety and Mutual Aid. Also, that link will show you where to find out more about me. And I'm going to display that URL to you straightway. There's no L in Keezy. This is where you find my short bio. You can also find stuff about the Hopi prophecy. So go to that link now.